My name is Renee Akitelek Mboya. I'm a curator from Nairobi. Most of my practice is based around colonial film archives from the immediate post-colonial period. Raw Material Company has always been a reference for me in my work in thinking about what a library space can look like and how we can access new ways of learning, or what a community space can look like and how we can access new ways of communing. We started thinking about this project together in relation to migration narratives that have kind of come to influence the way that African stories are told and imagined. So we were thinking primarily with migrant communities here in Lava-PS because we perceived that there was a direct route between Dakar and Madrid as a result of the many communities that have settled here over the generations, but then more so in the last 10 or 15 years where you've had people coming over in rather precarious circumstances. In a lot of West African cultures, but specifically in Senegalese culture, there is an esteemed position of the griot. And the griot is a storyteller, but also the memory keeper. In many respects, a memory activist. And so we started thinking about what it might be to try and recreate the position of the griot in a community that is in essence outside of its homeland. So how do you keep the memories of your community while you are in exile? So a huge part of my research was to spend time here in Lava-PS with members from this community and sort of interview them about their memories of home, but then also their ideals having moved to Spain and their ambitions in the new diasporic realities. So I spent a month here in Madrid, and I was surprised at how much masculinity, like a contemporary ideal of masculinity, kind of tied into the source of pressure that people were describing having felt, the pressure to leave home, right? And make a better life for their families. And so in many respects, it became an exploration of masculinity in contemporary African cinema, modernist and contemporary African cinema, going as far back as the 1950s. A lot of the footage that we selected was even as far back as the 1920s, telling the story of sort of like a pre-modern Dakar where social structures were intact, these structures that we aspire to, that we kind of valorize as better than what Western modernity has proposed to us.
Bonjour, Diogan. Te voilà un homme maintenant, comme tu as grandi. Et...
So the film primarily takes as its source a film that was made in 1965 called Ndiongan. And the story of Ndiongan is the story of a young man whose father is a hunter and who dies in the hunt. And Ndiongan, at a very young age, becomes the primary caregiver in some respects for his family. And so I was trying to think a lot with this figure of Ndiongan, who is, I think, in many respects, a mythical figure. And so in this specific condition, I was trying to think about what does it mean for these young people, and especially young men, to leave their communities. Sometimes they leave, they're not traveling under their own names, their families don't know they've left, they don't necessarily always make it across the Mediterranean, and then they arrive in Spain and they're outside of the system. So yeah, I was trying to think through different storytelling and documentary methodologies to create a documentary, but in many respects it's a speculative documentary because it's not based on fact, but very much feeling and experience.
Diogan, reviens. Je ne reviendrai plus.
Ndiongan disparut dans les flots.
I certainly learned that archives are dynamic and diverse, and they look like more than what I anticipated. I was very much socialized in respect to an archive existing inside of a book or inside of a film, but there are certainly many, many places to find archival material and to instrumentalize it for a better society and learning from communities in Lavapiés how they were trying to archive their diasporic lives or their lives in exile was certainly very, very touching and very inspiring in terms of thinking about how we can learn together in different ways.